Wall Street is remembering a legend today. Longtime CNBC guest star Cashin has died. UBS Director of Floor Operations at the NYSE. He was a fixture at the big board for 6 decades, known for his colorful daily market commentary titled Cashin's Comments, which he had sent to clients for more than 40 years. Bob Pisani's here to talk about art. Tough day yesterday, Bob.
Tough and very emotional for me and you, and I know it had influence on you. David, you were regular at speaking to him as well. Art Cashin was a dear friend who befriended me almost 30 years ago and greatly influenced my market reporting. He was a master market historian, but he was not an academic. His greatest gift was that he was a master storyteller who knew how to translate the often arcane world of stock trading into simple language that anyone could understand. In the intensely competitive and often vicious world of stock market commentary, Art Cashin was that rarest of all creatures, a man respected by all, bulls and bears, liberals and conservatives alike. He was born in Jersey City, New Jersey in 1941 and began his business career when he was 17 years old and still in high school.
So what you need is comfortable shoes for your workday.
In 1964, at age 23, he became one of the youngest members of the New York Stock Exchange. Years later, he would proudly point to the book he signed the day he became a member, a book that contained the signatures of other notables like
J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, Arthur D. Cashin Jr., December 30th, 1964.
Cashin was head of floor trading for Paine Webber, then UBS, and was a regular commentator on CNBC for more than 25 years. But he was best known as a market historian, a teller of stories, and a regular at the many watering holes around the New York Stock Exchange. Part of his charm was his refusal to adopt many of the conveniences of the modern world. He refused to learn how to use a computer. His notes were handwritten and then sent to his assistant. His desk was piled high with papers he had accumulated over many years. He refused to buy a smartphone. He refused to use credit cards and paid for everything with cash.
You pay by credit card. People know where you went to drink, how much you drank, and what you were drinking. So if you want to keep the anonymity in there, you pay cash.
But Cashin is perhaps best remembered for his skill as a storyteller about the markets.
I have been fortunate enough over the years to be able to look at very complicated situations or problems and be able to reduce them to understandable items by using a story or a parable or something.
His daily market commentary, Cashin's Comments, ran continuously for over 40 years and was widely read on Wall Street. It invariably began with a history lesson that was applied to the stock market.
Sue sends you a big kiss. Hold on.
I wish you had delivered it personally, Sue.
Among his many friends, Cashin will perhaps be best remembered for his modesty.
Hey.
He seemed genuinely puzzled about his popularity.
People have an interest in Arthur Cashin. I can't fully understand why.
Typically, he demurred when the Washington Post ran a long profile of his career, calling him Wall Street's version of Walter Cronkite.
Well, I think I owe an apology to Walter Cronkite, but that's all right. 1, 2, 3.
Wait till the sun shines, Nellie, as the clouds go drifting by. We will be happy, Nellie.
One of the great joys of my life was regular dinners with Art Cashin, and I will tell you, dinner with Art Cashin is like a scene out of Mad Men. You start with 2 scotches. He drank Dewar's religiously, regularly. It would progress to pigs in a blanket. He called it Irish caviar. Then French fries, then a burger, then a steak. And there were days we didn't get past the scotches. And he was a slow drinker and very deliberate, always talking about the market as it went on. And then a few hours in, say, Art, I got to go home. And I'd come home in next morning, Cashin's comments would be in my mailbox. He was home at 1 o'clock in the morning writing those comments. And if people think that I'm exaggerating, this is a menu from the late 1960s from a legendary watering hole called Eberlin's right around the corner. Art was a regular here. On page 2, on the entries, there is spaghetti a la Arthur Cashin. And one day I said, Art, what is this? He said, well, you know, this was our favorite hangout. And we'd go out all night and come in at 6 a.m. Eberlin's opened at 6 a.m. And what would you be doing there, Art? He said, well, we were hungry. We'd been out all night. We'd order spaghetti. And he had a special recipe they made for him, named the menu item after him. I said, so you guys were out all night? He said, well, yeah. And in between, I'd find some way to write my Cashin's comments, and we'd show up. That's what it was like a scene out of Mad Men. And he had an amazing capacity. But all night, sitting next to him for 25 years, I can't describe how much he influenced the way
I'm glad you mentioned that he didn't chase innovation, technology, but he could talk about it. He could talk about anything that was current.
Exactly what was going on in the world, and yet there were things you just couldn't change with him. I mean, at the end of the night, he'd whip out this giant wad of bills to put it on the table. I said, you know, Art, there are credit cards. He said, we don't need them. I don't want people knowing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
He thought it was an invasion of privacy. He didn't care about cell phones. He had a bad flip phone. He never answered it. He would ring and just not do anything. And he absolutely insisted that that was part of his personality. It was very carefully crafted persona. There was nothing haphazard about him at all.
Well, I don't want to overlook his prescient market commentary. I mean, the man had a feel for the market that was unrivaled. I know you know that, Bob, but we haven't really, you know, I would talk to any number of Wall Street professionals who had great success, but when he would come on, everybody would listen.
Yeah.
To Art, because he had a feel intraday especially, but for the market that was really unparalleled.
And it was remarkable. He had no enemies. You know, this is the business that genders a lot of anger, jealousy, controversy. Nobody ever had anything nasty to say about Art Cashin, and I think it was the manner in which he described how he was thinking. He had opinions, and some of them could have been subject to definite challenges, and yet people always said, I have a lot of respect for him. He somehow managed to take all of this complicated information and make it fairly simple and easy to understand. And it was very difficult to sort of disagree with him. He would sit next to me after the night sitting across the street at Bobby Vance and say, Bob, you missed the point today. You missed something very, very important. And he was very professorial, always serious until the end. It didn't matter if you were deep into 5 or 6 scotches with him, he always had a point about the markets.
And he also didn't always claim credit. One thing that I'll remember about Art is some of the emails that he would send me specifically commenting on my interviews. He listened. He was a consumer of CNBC as well and always listened to what smart people like Ray Dalio had to say and would send me, from the assistant, direct comments about what he said, and then sometimes include them in the notes. And it always made me feel very, very good and
Being
special.
part of the CNBC family was very important to him. The two most important things in his life were his family and the New York Stock Exchange and CNBC. Even as you see the floor trading declined over the years, he stayed very, very involved in what was going on on a daily basis. And the work that he did after 9/11 with the Fallen Heroes Fund, the charity work that he did, we don't have time to talk about it, but it was, he never ever sort of stepped back, even until the very end. I spoke to him a month ago, and first thing out of his mouth was some market commentary, even when he was sitting in the hospital. He still knew what was going on, even after a difficult decline for him.
It's a really moving remembrance that you wrote for him, Bob.
Thank you.
Our thoughts are with his family. Art Cashin was 83.